Good evening, and welcome to Ysleta Independent School District's meeting of the Board of Trustees. The board invites public comment during the designated portion of the meeting. Notice of this meeting was provided, instructions on electronic and in-person sign-up, and the rules for participation. Legally, the board may listen but may not enter into discussion on the issue raised. This meeting of the Board of Trustees is called to order at 6:01 p.m. We have a quorum with Charlie Bustillos, Sotero Ramirez, Shane Haggerty, Mike Rosales, Connie Woodruff, Catherine Lucero, and myself, Cruz Ochoa. Secretary Lucero, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you.
Secretary Lucero, do we have any citizens' input?
Yes, we do. Mr. Joseph Sapayan regarding information on STTE nonprofit.
Good afternoon, Board President, Board of Trustees, Dr. De La Torre, and guests. My name is Joseph Sapien. I'm here with STT Foundation. We're a nonprofit organization in the community that helps kids get involved in STEM education, entrepreneurship. We have a Teachers Education Award ceremony on May 22nd that I'd like to invite everybody to watch on KVIA Channel 7. And we also are launching a program called SayWhat.tv, which is social emotional learning. This is a free news media channel for kids, and it's really meant to just inspire and spark their interest in technology and entrepreneurship. So just wanted to inform the board of some of the things that we're doing at STTE. And lastly, we also are doing an AR science fair, which is about getting kids to learn science in augmented reality. So I want to thank the board for the opportunity to briefly explain or present on STTE, and have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you.
Next up, we have Arlinda Valencia regarding salary.
Good evening, President Ochoa, Dr. De La Torre, and Board of Trustees. It's been a while since we've seen each other. Although we aren't over the pandemic, it looks like we all survived this past year. It's been a tough year for everyone, especially teachers, students, and parents. And let's not forget our hourly employees who stepped up to all the unusual challenges this year. The district and you, the board, stepped up to all the demands also. You were instrumental in getting everyone the equipment they needed to do a good job. Dr. De La Torre and his staff met with us, the Ysleta Teachers Association, on a regular basis in order to make sure that employees were taken care of. We appreciate everyone working together in order to keep everyone safe. Tonight, I stand before you to ask you to please consider a well-deserved raise for all employees. For the past several years, a 2 or a 2.5% raise has been the standard. But this year, since it was so much harder for everyone, I would like for this board to consider a higher increase. Our neighbor, Socorro ISD, gave a 4% raise, with a $1,000 stipend in May and another $1,000 stipend in the fall. Ysleta has been the highest paying district for the past several years. But with Socorro's salary package this year, it definitely puts them on top. YTA would like this board to keep us in play. We have to stay competitive. We know that you're having to decide on whether or not to pass on raising insurance costs for all employees. YTA knows that Ysleta is quite different than Socorro. Where Socorro is growing and receiving more new tax dollars, Ysleta is not, because it is landlocked and it's consolidating. But saying that doesn't mean we can't do better. YTA believes that the district could manage a 3% increase with no increase to employees' insurance rates. And on top of that, the Ysleta district is getting $139 million from ESSER funds, which can be used for retention stipends. Those retention stipends could be used to give a full-time employee $1,000 in the fall and $1,000 in the spring. This proposal will definitely keep us competitive with all the other districts in the area. YTA hopes that you will consider this proposal for Ysleta's salary package. If any of you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. No more? Okay. All right, thank you so much. Now we will proceed into the swearing of the elected board members. The May 1st, 2021 election was canceled due to the unopposed candidates. Therefore, the unopposed candidates are considered elected. And we will now be sworn in as called to the podium. Family and group pictures will be taken during the recess after all trustees have been sworn in. Mr. Martinez.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. De La Torre, and esteemed guests. This evening, we will have the swearing in for 4 trustees. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Brian J. Haggerty, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 2, who will swear in District 3 Trustee Shane Haggerty. We invite you to join us in the front of the dais, please. We'll have some mics for you over there. We have some mics over there. Let me check with Ms. Mathewson. Give me just a moment.
I was going to read it here.
Okay.
I mean, it would look nice in the middle, but unless you give me a piece of paper to read.
Sir, can we just hold on a little minute?
Sure.
Mr. Haggerty is waiting for his family. They're parking in the
Oh, we could be here till Christmas.
We'll just take a few minutes. I think Haggertys are always on time, aren't they?
Can you get me a copy? You want to go, let the other ones go, and then we wait till everybody else comes?
They're gonna need it too.
Do we have to do it in order? Is there a rule?
Mr. Martinez, can we proceed and with Catherine Lucero and swearing in, and then we'll,
Sure, just give us 1 minute, sir. We're going to get the oath in just a moment.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Martinez, we'll
Yes, sir.
proceed as planned.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just reintroduce the Honorable Brian J. Haggerty, Justice of the Peace, Precinct Number 2, who will swear in District 3 Trustee Shane Haggerty, and we invite both of them to join us in the front of the dais, please.
Okay. I think I've done this one before. You want me right here? Like this? All right. It's like we're getting married. Okay. Raise your right hand. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, I,
You gotta say all that?
yes, say your name,
I, Shane Haggerty,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office
of the Ysleta Independent School District Board of Trustees,
of the Ysleta Independent School District Board of Trustees,
the state of Texas,
the state of Texas,
and I will,
and I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you to the Honorable Brian J. Haggerty, Justice of the Peace, Precinct Number 2, and our very own trustee, Shane Haggerty. Joining us this evening to swear in Trustee Catherine Lucero, please help me welcome the Honorable Ana Perez, Judge for the 41st District of Texas. Will you please join us in the front of the dais?
Good evening, Dr. De La Torre and members of the Board of Trustees and members of this community. I'm very honored to administer the oath of Ms. Catherine Lucero, who has not only been a wonderful public servant so far, but she's a good friend. So I am very honored to be here. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this won't be as comical as the Haggerty one, but, but it'll be official. Okay. Please raise your right hand. I state your name,
I, Catherine Rose Lucero,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of trustee
the duties of the office of trustee
for the Ysleta Independent School District Board of Trustees
for the Ysleta Independent School District Board of Trustees
of the State of
of
Texas,
the state of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you to Judge Ana Perez, and congratulations to Trustee Catherine Lucero. At this time, please help me welcome the Honorable El Paso County Judge Ricardo Samaniego. Judge Samaniego will swear in Carlos Bustillos, Trustee for District 1. Please join us at the front of the dais.
Before we begin, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the board, Dr. De La Torre, for the amazing job during a very difficult situation. And I'm saying right now the two most important boards are school boards and the hospital district. The challenges that you have in front of you are really critical, and we have a lot to do for our children, a lot of changes that need to take place. So I really thank you for not only the challenges that you have faced, but what you're going to be facing as you go forward. I offer you, courage and the faith, and that God bless you in everything that you do going forward. And this gentleman from Riverside,
Yes, sir.
please raise your right hand and repeat after me. In the name by the authority of the state of Texas, I state your name,
Carlos Bustillos,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of the state of Texas,
of the office of the state of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve,
preserve,
protect, defend
defend
the Constitution,
the Constitution,
laws of the United States,
laws of the United States,
and of this state,
and of the state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
There's an additional, because of you being an officer. We will now, I state your name,
I, Carlos Bustillos,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I have not directly
that I have not directly
or indirectly paid,
or indirectly paid,
offered,
offered,
promised to pay,
promised to pay,
contributed,
contributed,
or promised to contribute
or promised to contribute
any money
any money
or thing of value,
or thing of value,
or promised
or promised
any public office
any public office
or employment
or employment
for the giving,
for the giving,
withholding of a vote
withholding of a vote
at the election
at the election
which I was elected,
which I was elected
or as a reward
as a reward
to secure
to secure
my appointment
my appointment
or confirmation.
or confirmation.
Whichever the case may be,
Whichever the case may be,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bustillos. Congratulations. We'd like to invite District 5 Trustee Cruz A. Ochoa Jr. down to the front of the dais to have the oath administered to you by El Paso County Judge Ricardo Samaniego.
What an honor.
It's an honor for me.
Thank you. We're both from the class of 67 from Jefferson. I graduated at the age of 12. But this is quite an honor. This is quite a gentleman, tremendous amount of respect for everything that you do, and very proud and very privileged to be here and give you the oath at this time.
Well, same, I'm very proud that you were able to come down here and swear me in with the oath. for my next 4 years. It has been a lot, and to have all my friends here in my family, especially from Jeff. You would never know we're from Jeff. So, but but we're here for the community, and that's what counts. We're here now, standing here, leaders of the community. I think that's what I guess we're meant to do.
Yeah,
you know?
we're very proud.
So,
I've asked
thank you.
Dr. De La Torre, I want to petition to see if Jefferson could move into the Ysleta School District. I know it's a small little favor, but,
Well, thank you.
so thank you.
Excuse me, Judge Samaniego, over here.
Pardon me?
At this time, all we need to do is read the first oath, just administer the first oath for the trustees,
Yeah, that's I did.
without the second part.
Not
Thank
the
you.
other two. I was just doubling up a little bit on that. Thank you. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, I
I, Cruz Ochoa,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of the state of Texas
of the state of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Samaniego, and congratulations to our very own Trustee Ochoa. A special thanks to all of our guests that joined us this evening. Congratulations to all of our elected trustees. Thank you for all that you do for our community.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Excellent job. Before we go into recess, I would like to give the trustees an opportunity to say a few words. Mr. Haggerty?
Thank you. The very first time I got sworn in 2010, I had a prepared speech, and this time I don't. But that prepared speech was a list of thank yous that I think took like half an hour. And I think the list of people that I need to thank is even bigger now. But I just need to thank my family for one, the community, this board for their confidence, the community for their confidence. And I can't tell you how happy I am to be back, how happy I am to be back home in Ysleta. And I'm really looking forward to these next 4 years and hoping to get a lot of work done because we've got some amazing kids. We've got the best teachers. We've got a fantastic administration, and it's just a wonderful place to volunteer. So thank you.
You know, when I got started 4 years ago, nobody ever told me we were gonna go through a pandemic and all the stuff we were going through. But you know, I'd like to thank everybody on this dais, people sitting in the front, our administration, our teachers. I learned so much, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to learn from you guys. I don't say very much, but I know that I do study, and I thank everybody up here in the dais. The community, my lovely blue-collar community, thank you for giving me the opportunity to work. That's all I know how to do is work, and I give you 100% every day, every time. And that's the reflection, definitely, of my Rangers and my Ranger community. Most importantly, my family. When I started this, I thought it was just going to be me. But after 4 years of enduring this, it's definitely taken a toll on my family. Not in a hard way, but I just see how it does affect your family. You know, from the comments to the good comments to the bad comments, but we work together through it. And I tell you right now, I could not do it without my family. My wife, who is a rock hard cheerleader of mine, and we talk so many nights about the different things that are going on. My kids who see me every day, my mom and dad who cheer me on also. I just want to say thank you. So that's all I got to say. So thank you very much.
Ms. Lucero?
It's been an honor to serve the Ysleta Independent School District for the past 4 years. As my fellow trustee have said, it's definitely been a challenge and a learning experience, but it's been a good one. And I truly believe here at the Ysleta Independent School District, we value one another, and we are a family here as a district. Each and every child matters, and everybody advocates for our students. I'm grateful for the trust of another term, and I will continue to be an advocate for teachers, students, employees, and our community. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Does anybody else have any comments? Okay. Me? All right. I'll close it out for this part. I want to thank Judge Samaniego for coming down here and administering the oath. I think it was quite an honor, as you know, that both of us, we never knew when we were in high school that we'd be seeing each other again like this, which was quite an honor. But it is an honor for me to have the privilege to represent District 5 as the Ysleta ISD School Board Trustee for another 4 years. Thank you. I am very grateful to the community for the support they have shown me, and I am beyond words in expressing my joy in seeing all my friends and family here today and those watching online who took the time to share this moment with us. I want to thank my wife, Alicia, for her unwavering support, especially during the past year and a half. It has been rough. During the pandemic, too many of us have lost a loved one or had to endure the uncertainty it brought upon us. Now it is time of reflection on what has happened to all of us and to really appreciate what we do have. As I look out and see your smiling faces, even though you are wearing masks, with your presence here today gives me hope for a better tomorrow. I also want to thank my fellow board members, Mr. Rosales, Ms. Woodruff, Ms. Lucero, Mr. Haggerty, Mr. Ramirez, and Mr. Bustillos. It was 4 years ago I took office, and I was immediately impressed with their dedication to assuring our children would be receiving the best education possible. I also want to thank Dr. De La Torre and his staff who stepped up to the challenges we faced, helping our district stay on course, educating our students to the best of our abilities during these troubling times. I also want to thank our teachers, our admin, and our support staff. Without them, none of this would have been possible. At this time, I rededicate myself to fulfilling my obligations and responsibilities of this office, and my hope is that we can all enjoy a better times in the future to be. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Again, I thank you all. Thank you. At this time, I will call for a short break of 15 to 20 minutes at 6:31, and we should resume our meeting at 5:51. I can't even see. 6:31 and 6:51. All right. Thank you. We reconvene at 6:54 PM. We will now proceed with election of board officers. And newly elected officers will take their position at the next meeting of the board. Following board operating procedures, trustees have been informed of those who have expressed interest in serving in one or more officer positions. According to the expression of interest, the following expressed interest: Cruz Ochoa for president, Charlie Bustillos for vice president, Catherine Lucero for secretary, and Shane Haggerty has expressed interest for parliamentarian. That position is appointed by the board president. Is there any discussion on this item? Do I have a motion on this matter?
President Ochoa? President Ochoa, may I make the motion?
Yes.
I move to elect the following board officers: Cruz Ochoa as president, Carlos Bustillos as vice president, and Catherine Lucero as secretary.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Woodruff seconds. Trustee Bustillos, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Woodruff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Haggerty, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Rosales, how do you vote?
Yes.
Trustee Ramirez, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Trustee Lucero, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Trustee Ochoa, I vote yes. The motion passes 7-0. Congratulations. At this time, I call the YISD Public Facility Corporation Board of Directors to order with the following directors present: Mr. Charlie Bustillos, Mr. Sotero Ramirez, Mr. Shane Haggerty, Mr. Mike Rosales, Ms. Connie Woodruff, Ms. Catherine Lucero, and myself, Cruz Ochoa. Elected officers of the YISD Public Facility Corporation, PFC Board of Directors. Is there any discussion at this time? If no further discussion, may I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve as elected officers of the Public Facility Corporation Board the same persons elected to serve as officers of the Board of Trustees of the Ysleta Independent School District.
Can you place yourself as a mover? Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Ms. Lucero,
No.
can you read I think Ms. Lucero has to read the motion now, right?
It's okay. Go ahead. I'll second it. Go ahead.
Would you like me to reset the vote?
No, we haven't voted.
The- the mover-
No, just leave it like that. Let Ms. Lucero.
What?
It's okay.
Sure,
I've seconded. It's fine.
I move to approve as elected officers of the Public Facility Corporation Board the same persons elected to serve as officers of the Board of Trustees of the Ysleta Independent School District.
I have a second by Ms. Woodruff. Please place your electronic votes. Mr. Ramirez. Okay, all votes have been cast. Results are 7 in favor and none opposed. At this time, if there's no further discussion, I adjourn the PFC meeting and reconvene the workshop and regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. Proceeding with the board workshop, Dr. De La Torre, do you have any presentation for us this evening?
Good evening, President Ochoa, members of the board, guests. We do have several presentations. One that is especially timely is a presentation by Trustee Shane Haggerty in expressing his gratitude to the faculty in the Ysleta Independent School District.
Thank you. I think the last time I gave a speech like this one, it was a different board because I had to give it from the public comment in order to give it. But it was definitely worth giving then and certainly worth giving now, I think even more so because of what everybody's gone through. And as I sit up here looking at all the words on my speech, if you told me I would still be sitting here 10 years later, 11 years later, and still be nervous about giving a speech to teachers who deserve it, I definitely believe you, but I'm definitely nervous. But in honor of last week's Teacher Appreciation Week, I'd like to take a moment not only to express my profound thanks to all the outstanding teachers we have at the district, but to also let each and every one of you know that I see what you do for our students and that I value every one of you. The powers that may be have labeled you as non-essential workers during the pandemic, but let me assure you just how essential you are. I've been a volunteer with this district since 2010. Through good times and bad, I have seen what you all are asked to do on a daily basis when things are normal. I've witnessed how hard teaching is when things are normal, but nothing like what we experienced this past year. And this time, I had a front row seat to exactly what you were called upon to endure. My sons were figuring out how to learn from home, and during the height of the pandemic, I married the love of my life, a teacher, just like you. And as I watched her face the same challenges, the same difficulties and hardships that many of you faced as well, there was nothing normal about any of it. It wasn't what she signed up for. It wasn't what any of you signed up for. But every one of you did it, and did it well. I saw you put virtual learning plans in place almost overnight. I watched you all become masters of Google Classroom, of chat rooms, phone calls, and made Zoom a household name. My wife has always worked long hours, just like so many of you did too. That's just what good teachers do. On the clock or not, you never stopped caring. You never stopped being teachers. But this year, I saw my wife work until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, more often than the times that she didn't. I saw how she missed her students, her classroom. But they aren't just her students, they're her kids. And she wasn't going to let them down. Not for 1 second. I saw her find new and innovative ways to keep her kids engaged, to see that spark in their eyes when they learn something new. I saw her become a counselor, attending the social, emotional needs of her kids that were home alone for hours on end, how they would beg her to stay, let them stay online with her after class was over. Please, miss, don't go just yet. I know the next class is starting, but just a few more minutes. I saw her become a health professional, making sure her kids were staying active, eating, practicing good hygiene. She became a computer technician and network administrator, keeping your students connected to the classroom in the cloud. She didn't sign up for that. None of you did. But you did it, and you did it well. Outstanding would be a better word to use. And while you were creating new ways to connect with your students and their families, you still took care of your own families. I know my wife did. And she taught her kids so much more than what's on the curriculum: empathy, compassion, endurance, new ways of thinking and problem solving, and so many other life skills. All of you did. I saw it myself. Years from now, when we go back to what will be a new normal, we will look back and remember that 2020 was the year when we learned to live together apart, to continue functioning as a society from a distance. But we will also remember who wrote the book when it came to that way of living. The ones who led the charge in keeping us safe while still providing our kids with an education, counseling, socialization, and so much more. We will look back on 2020 and see exactly who was at the forefront, of keeping our society moving forward, keeping them safe and healthy, both physically and emotionally. And with all that, we still found a way to educate the future of our community. We will look back and see that the people who were most essential to us were and are our Ysleta teachers. I ask everybody listening to join me in expressing appreciation to our teachers for their dedication and devotion to their work and to the children of the Ysleta community. Thank you, teachers. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haggerty. Well said.
President Ochoa, at this time, we'd like to give you the monthly COVID update. Ms. Lindley Leeper will do that for us now.
Good evening, President Ochoa, members of the board, and Dr. De La Torre. We'll dive right in and talk about the COVID-19 update indicators as of today, vaccine status, rapid testing, as well as face-to-face participation. So actually, this is an old presentation. I would be really excited for you to see the real one because today, for the last 7 days, we have been in code green. It's the first time since last March or earlier. And as you may remember, it takes a lot to get to code green. So it only takes 1 day to revert, but you have to have consecutive days with no interruptions to get into green and to stay in green. So this is great news for our community, for our Ysleta family, and I'm pleased to be able to share that with you this evening. I'm going to use this presentation, and I'll just give you the real one as we go through the slides. With regard to the vaccine, as you know, on May the 10th, 2 days ago, FDA approved administration of the Pfizer vaccine to anyone 12 years of age or older. And so we are already partnering with Providence Hospitals. We've reached out and talked with UMC. We've talked to Immunize El Paso, a variety of organizations who are going to partner with us to administer that vaccine to any student whose parent desires it. While we administered over 5,800 of doses to either Ysleta employees, 18 or older students, other ISD employees, and YISD family members, I will tell you flat out, our nurses are exhausted. That took 6 weeks to do 5,800. We have over 21,000 students age 12 or older. And the vaccine has not yet been made available to entities who were previously administering Moderna. So we would have to switch to the Pfizer. It has additional requirements for ultra-cold storage and things like that. So we believe it's in the best interest of both students and nurses and our staff to partner with these other organizations. We have already sent out one notice. That was for the Providence pre-registration. We will be sharing additional notices with other applications and their links so that families can begin pre-registering. Let me think if there's anything else. I think that was it on the 5,800. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about testing. Let me see if I can do this from memory. ESSER 3 planning. So as you know, from, I guess, about June of last year, we have had a health and safety COVID plan published on the website as required by TEA. And that particular plan addresses the return to school for in-person learning and learning loss, as well as other elements like that. ESSER 3 requirement that TEA has published requires us to review that plan and update it every 6 months. Well, we've been doing it basically every month. Another requirement is that we get meaningful stakeholder input and that we incorporate any of that relevant or applicable input into the plan. So the plan that is posted today online will expire June 30th. Our goal is to publish a new plan that incorporates the ESSER 3 requirements no later than 2 weeks prior to the beginning of school. So school starts August 2nd. We plan to publish no later than July 19th after we have those public meetings to incorporate stakeholder input. Let me think if there's, I might have some notes on it. Let me look. Let's see if there's anything else about ESSER 3 that you'll want to know with regard to planning. Nope, I got those. Okay, so Testing, you can see this one says we've administered 114,000. We're actually up to 148,000 tests now, and we still remain well below a 1% positivity rate among all categories, whether it's students at the high school, middle school, or adults at any location. I can't, hey, there's the current, not yet. Okay, so anyway, at the high school level, I think that's our highest positivity rate, which is to be expected. They have the most mobility, but it's still 1.1%. So we have administered over or nearly 20,000 tests per month since October, and all across all categories have had much less than a 1% rate. Still old presentation. Let's see if I have any other notes here. I think that gets, yep, that covers BIMAX testing. Okay, so student learning. In the last month, since the last presentation I gave you, we have moved another 35% of our students to in-person, face-to-face instruction. So obviously, asynchronous remote instruction would go back down by the same percentage, and we've seen more students return. In fact, I think last week, just another 500 came back to school for in-person instruction. There's our code green. You have to see it because we haven't, well, not yet. I see it. Nope, okay, never. Nope, still not going to. Let's see. I'd like to show you. There we go. Okay, so we're going to the end now. All right, so there you can see the 34 to 35% that have come back for in-person instruction, either Monday through Friday, which is in person, or Monday through Thursday with Friday at home, which is the hybrid. This is a representation of, now I have another. Okay, anyway, we have for face-to-face testing, as you know, STAR requires that students come to school to test. And so our end-of-course exams have completed. The window has closed for EOC English 1 and English 2. And we had, I believe, like 91. Oh, thank you. We'll use yours. Let me get to the end so I can see those numbers exactly. They were 91. 91 and 92% of our students appeared in person for the English 1 and 2 end-of-course exams, while at the middle school level, 93 to 95% appeared in person. The writing exam has finished. The reason you don't see K-8 and elementary is because that window's still open. Those students are still coming to school on a daily basis to take those exams. The TELPAS is a snapshot in time. That window is still open and those students are still testing. So that just, the reason those numbers are much less is because it represents those who have participated to date. And let me backtrack and just make sure there wasn't anything that I missed. I think I got those. So there you can see 148,000 and a 0.6 percentage point positivity rate. And there's the ESSER 3 planning. Those dates were right. I did have them in my head. So expiration June 30th, new plan published by July 19th. I will tell you that your June board meeting looks very full. So we have ESSER 3. The spending plan must be brought to you. We have to have public comment, public input that night, as well as a plethora of other things, the June budget adoption, because we have to adopt by June 30th. So your June meeting will be very busy, and this is one of the big elements you'll see at that time. And with that, I can take any questions about this particular presentation. Thank you, Mr. Basurto. You saved my hide. No questions?
Sorry, yes, sir.
Ms. Leeper.
Yes, sir.
Has TEA given you any guidance as to how they feel about the fall and those sort of things yet?
So actually, we do not have a lot of guidance about whether they can remain online. I am hearing, and I think Dr. Chacon can probably chime in, I think there's an element that's going to be in place for those who are adamant they're not coming back. They will only do remote instruction. I think that provision, that protection will still be there for that limited number. Our planning right now is face-to-face. We're planning for them to come back and moving in that direction. But TEA, have they issued formal? I haven't seen anything, no.
No, it's currently, there's a few bills currently in the House and the Senate that are moving. They haven't moved at a great speed, but they're there, that they're debating. So it's actually a legislative decision. Under current law, the only provision is face-to-face instruction like we've always known it, traditional. If they do, they would have to add, a bill would have to pass. And so right now, there's a few. House Bill 1468 is one that has momentum. What it states is that anybody pre-K2 would have to be in person. Anybody third and up would have the opportunity, but it's very vague and still in bill format and being back and forth in committees.
I noticed that the commercials that some of these, they're charter schools, that these charter schools are running, it seems like they're positioning themselves to be the online provider to families that don't want to go back to school. What's your thought on that? I'm not asking you to say anything bad about charter schools.
Oh, I thought you wanted my opinion. I said, sir, I'm on record right now.
I'm just saying, I mean, are we going to offer that as an option? Is that our plan going forward?
So if it passes, because nothing's passed yet.
Right.
So currently, if it passes, we will look at our options and definitely make sure. Now, homebound and all of those programs specific for medical purposes will continue. So that's a different provision of it. But we will take a look and see what our options are.
No, we've always had those programs.
Right.
Homebound programs.
So
that's
those
not-
have always been face-to-face. So there will be some pieces where the virtual piece might be added to those 504 funds and so forth.
Okay.
But remember, we have a specific homebound teacher that would do that instruction.
Earlier today, we had a urban council meeting with Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, et cetera. And it appears that they are positioning themselves to be the online provider for an online program. And the concern is that most of our school districts are not in a position to develop a program as sophisticated as some of these charter schools have developed over time. And then the other piece is that they actually expect us to use our own resources to develop it. So there aren't any state resources that would serve as an incentive for school districts to develop these online programs. So some people interpret that as the state, and Commissioner Morath, who's always been a proponent and supports charter schools, as an attempt to give charter schools this opening to promote themselves and become attractive to those parents and students who still feel uncomfortable and anxious about coming back to school, by allowing them to make their programs available to students across the state. And as a matter of fact, someone who used to work in this region and who's involved in online charter schools is thriving in the Hallsville, Huntsville area of Texas, where they can now enroll students from anywhere in the state and receive ADA for those students, whether or not they live in Huntsville, Hallsville, Dallas, or San Antonio.
I saw another school district, but it's actually a real public ISD up in the North Texas area, Plano area, and I'm trying to remember it. Very close to the Dallas Cowboy practice facility.
Yeah, up near Frisco.
Yeah, Frisco, and they've developed their own program, their own online program, but they developed their program prior to the pandemic because they were seeing one of the things that some parents had expressed concern in their community or in that area was about the safety of children and stuff like that. And so to meet that need, they were providing online instruction before the pandemic. And I thought that was kind of an interesting model. But one of the other interesting thing too is that they had changed the model. So this child is no longer connected to a particular learning community or to a particular administration or group of teachers. They were connected to the online model, period. And if they ever decided to go back to face-to-face, their family was going to have to make that decision.
So they become a student of the state.
Yeah.
Basically. And back when I was in Socorro, we were approached by K-12 Insight, and they tried to arrange a similar system where they would provide courses to any student in the state of Texas, and we would receive the ADA for that student. But from that ADA, K-12 Insight would take about 80% of the ADA for providing the online curriculum for students. And we didn't feel like that would make the district at the time very popular across the region or across the state if all of a sudden we started aggressively recruiting students from anywhere in the state in an effort to make what amounted to about 20-25% of their ADA in terms of how we would benefit And keep in mind, we're one of the fastest growing districts in the state, so ADA really wasn't a problem. But I think it's an interesting business plan. So I know that people today, Dallas, Fort Worth, were very, very concerned about neighboring school districts offering this opportunity to their students, and it resulting in a significant loss of enrollment and revenue that could certainly and adversely impact those school districts if this gets through.
Mr. President?
I'm sorry, can I just finish up, Mr. Haggerty? Just a couple of things. One is that what Mr. Haggerty said, public education and what we've gone through in the last year, there's no ROI on this, guys. I'm sorry for saying that like that, but there's no ROI on this. You got to spend the money that you got to spend to educate children, and each one of our kids, if we truly believe that each one of our kids is unique and deserving of every opportunity, then we need to do those things, and you don't do it by coming up with, with a business plan and to do that. I mean, we have to be smart about things, but that's number one. And then number two, I would remind Dr. De La Torre and Ms. Leeper, while I always appreciate the July break, the world is different right now. And if we need to meet in July, we need to meet in July. And I'm sure the other trustees are on board with that as well, too. So, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Haggerty.
I was just going to say, as newly appointed parliamentarian, I think we're getting off agenda. Sorry. It was a great discussion, and I love hearing about it. I think it'd be great to continue, but.
Well, thank you, Mr.
Mr.
I do have one question about, we're coming back face-to-face, at least that's what we're planning to. How does that impact our fall sports and our fine arts, like the band and all, our cheer squads and everything? How are we planning to have that in full force if they do come back face-to-face?
Most of those activities are ongoing right now. We've been rapid testing, which has allowed them to participate and move forward. They weren't in the fall, I think with a limited activity of football. Then once we got to late fall, the rest of the sports and most of the other extracurricular and band picked up.
Okay, great. I know that our community is very interested in seeing that come back. And I feel bad for all our students that missed out this last year. Especially our seniors. I mean, this was totally a different experience for them to be online for the whole school year, and it's most of their school year. So, we did our best we could to protect everybody, but it's one of those things that were just overwhelming us, and we did the best we could. Thank you.
Certainly.
Yeah.
No other questions?
Thank you,
Then
Ms. Lee.
actually, I'm going to move forward with your permission to the next presentation. Maybe? Yes. Okay. So let's talk about budget development for 21-22. As you know, board goals drive the development of any budget. Our future focuses on our students and ensuring that we allocate appropriate resources to gain content mastery and prepare for college, career, or military. This is the big thing that's out on the horizon. You heard Ms. Valencia refer to it a little earlier. Under ARPA, the American Rescue Plan that was signed into law on March 11th, over $125 billion was allocated nationwide solely for K-12 education, with a focus on reopening schools safely and mitigating or remediating learning loss. $12.4 billion was allocated to Texas for K-12 education. Obviously, with any federal spending, there are requirements, and one of the big ones is that we allocate a minimum of 20% to learning loss and recovery of that loss. TEA had their first true training session on Monday, this past Monday on the 11th, to talk about the guidance for sending in your or submitting your application, public comment, which I mentioned a little earlier, that for the first time we actually need to bring it to a board meeting and have public comment there. We have to have meaningful stakeholder input. They didn't describe meaningful. We'll use the committees that we already have in place, the DEIC, the PAC, the SAC, the CEIC, and all of those organizations to also help provide meaningful input, and then it must be incorporated within the spending plan. You've asked us, I'm sorry.
I-
Yes,
I'm
sir.
just, Ms. Sleeper, I'm just curious, on the public comment, does it have to be at a board meeting? Can we not solicit public comment, written comment? And
I think, yes, actually, there is a provision if we want to do a survey or something like that, we could put it online, but there is a new requirement, and TASB, I think, issued guidance today, I saw with policy language about amending board policies to include public comment for this specific purpose.
I don't know how the rest of the trustees feel, but I think that's, not everybody wants to get up and speak.
No.
If they want to provide written comment, I think that would be an appropriate thing.
We can absolutely do that.
Yes, ma'am. You can still do both. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we've had questions repeatedly about, well, what's happened with the ESSER 1, all of the CARES Act funding, where has that gone? Have we received our allocations? Because there was a lot of angst about TEA offsetting last year's money. So you can see that we were awarded $14.3 million under ESSER 1. We have received the entire allocation. There was a timing difference. We did get that this year. Operation connectivity refers to devices, to the T-Mobile hotspots that we have, and to our PPE that we expended in the early part of the pandemic from like March to May of last year. We've received all but $2.2 million of that. We anticipate they've continued to delay the final submission of this or the final calculation of it because some people just couldn't respond that quickly. And so rather than prevent any school district in Texas from recovering these preliminary or prior purchases, they've extended the deadlines. We anticipate we'll get 85% of this amount. So it's inevitable. We'll get it. It just may be later in this summer. The Texas Division of Emergency Management has already submitted to us our $1.6 million. ESSER 2, they haven't published guidance. So other than the allocation, which has been published publicly, and it's $57 million for us, there's no indication is TEA going to hold any of that to cover maybe hold harmless costs, because as you know, they've now extended it through the entire year. So that guidance hasn't been released, but they focused on ESSER 3. So that $139.6 million has been published. We are eligible to apply for our first 2/3 of the allocation. The application must be submitted by July 27th with a full spending plan. So we are in the process of developing that plan now, and we'll be bringing it back for public comment. But I wanted you to see where we are with regard to all of the other allocations we have been notified about. Okay, so our people, obviously, those that we love and work with day in and day out, those are our most significant assets. So we want to provide not only a competitive compensation and benefit package, but we want to maintain the right environment where people want to come to work and where parents want to send their kids to school. One of the other key functions that the HR department helps with during the budget development, obviously, are the staffing guidelines. And so last year, at the high school and middle school levels, our staffing ratio was 24 students to 1, while at the elementary school, it was 20.5 to 1. This next year, we are planning for 25 to 1, a 1 student increase at both the high school and middle schools, while the elementary school will remain the same. Now, last month, I showed you the potential compensation plan with a recommended 2% increase. And that's on the salary schedule. This month, we have built in a 2.5% increase at the midpoint for teachers, nurses, librarians, and then 2.5% of the midpoint for all other full-time personnel. Again, the one-time lump sum payment of $500 is built into the proposed budget as well. That one-time lump sum is limited to full-time personnel employed on a specific day, so November 11th, they would have to be employed. In order to receive a payment, if they're a biweekly employee, they would get it on November 19th. If they are a monthly employee, they would get it on November 30th. And then let's talk a little bit about the investment, the taxpayers' investment, our personal investment in the district's assets, and ensuring the fidelity in the bond program implementation. This is where we talk about the general overall budget and how it was developed. We always start with revenue. As you know, we've talked about the 2,000 student loss that we're working hard during our pre-K and our enrollment process right now to recover those students. But on the conservative side, we want to estimate a loss of what we're actually experiencing. So right now, this budget is built with a revenue loss associated with 2,276 students. Hopefully, it will not be that way next year, but we're going to go with the conservative estimate. Yes, ma'am.
I know we, in previous presentations regarding the loss, we've said that, you've mentioned it's pre-K students. Is that what we're still thinking? It's pre-K students, or have we seen losses in the other areas?
So I do think it is still largely in the pre-K because they've never enrolled in school, so it was hard for us to find them and get them registered. Dr. Chacon, have you seen any other trends, or do you?
I believe there was a trend in the freshman group of students, and I believe it was one of the grade levels in middle school, if I'm not mistaken. Across the board, there's a loss. The majority is in pre-K and our 3-year-old programs. Across the board, there's pockets of kids missing in each grade level, but I believe our freshmen is where there was another big hit.
How are we, I know we're currently enrolling, how are we doing with that? Where are we with that?
With it, like you're accepting kids right now?
Yeah, like in the pre-K for next year, I know it's open now, are we seeing and what we would see prior to COVID at this time, or?
We're currently analyzing the data that's coming in as far as pre-K goes, and most of our classes that are generally at 22-1 are right now in between 10 to 12-1. So we are seeing a decrease, but we're continuing to monitor it. We also have a program out there where we're marketing our pre-K program for our students. So hopefully we're going to see a return on investment on that by the end of the month.
Okay, so moving to the next slide and how this translates to a revenue loss, you can see that in the 2020-21 adopted budget, we had total revenues in the operating fund only of $418 million. We're projecting $409 million next year, a loss of nearly $9 million, and it's almost solely related to the loss of ADA. On the opposite side of the budget, talking about the expenditures, as you can see, related to goal number 1, we have dedicated 67% of funding in the operating accounts to instruction. So divided amongst instruction, curriculum, leadership at the campus, and instructional leadership, 67% of the operating budget, or of about $410 million, is dedicated to goal number 1, academic achievement for our students. This one lets you see on the other side of the coin how it affects goal 2. So if we talk about our employees being our greatest asset, you would think that's where our greatest investment is. And true to form, 85% of our budget is dedicated to payroll and benefits or supporting our employees. Contracted services and general supplies make up about 12%, and that's really utilities, fuel, those kinds of things. And then the others are very nominal when you look at the total appropriations. So as I mentioned, a 2.5% increase on the salary schedule is $7.4 million. The $500 one-time lump sum cost $3 million for a total increase salary schedule and one-time lump sum of about $10.4 million. The 2.5 you can see is roughly 7.5, so a 0.5% increase is about $1.5 million. So the $500 off schedule or one-time lump sum is the equivalent of a percentage point. So that brings this increase, if you look at it holistically, to about 3.5%. 2.5 is on the schedule. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
Would there be any restrictions for us using some of that extra money for a lump sum payment, a one-time lump sum?
Yes, the ESSER 3 has a provision in it, as Ms. Valencia mentioned, for retention credit or retention purposes. And the thing you have to remember, though, is when we adopt this budget, it is operating only, right? We have to adopt three funds: operating, debt service, and child nutrition. Federal funds are a different area of the budget, and that spending plan will come forward to you at that time. But absolutely, you have the freedom to tell us we want to use some of the ESSER monies for COVID relief, for retention credits, however we want to frame that and however you want to allocate it, we absolutely can. That is an eligible provision under ESSER 3.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Ms. Lindley?
Yes.
Yesterday, I saw YSD ISD's budget, and they mentioned that they were going to use the ESSER money, if available, they put that stipulation on teacher retention to provide those the two $1,000, one at the beginning and one at the end of the year. Is that something that we can?
Yes, sir. That's in line with what Mr. Haggerty is talking about, and you absolutely can. It's just coming out of a different fund that's not required legally to adopt here. So when we get to June, you would still adopt this budget with what you want to pay for out of the operating fund in terms of compensation that goes into our approved compensation plan on the budget, on the website. We would have a resolution that would say, and we want to add this retention credit of X amount at X periods during the year.
So I see that $500 right now. Would that still be there if we use the ESSER money?
Yes, and the reason I've stated it here is because our employees, quite frankly, have gotten used to it, and I don't want to muddy the water.
No, I'm just saying, does that $500 or that $3 million can we, if we use ESSER funds for that, does it give us that leeway to use those $3 million on pay increases?
So I think we're mixing things. So this is the operating budget. This is the one-time lump sum here. You can remove this or you can leave this, and you can substitute whatever you want from the ESSER fund. So you could do the 500, you could do what YISD did, you can do whatever you like within reasonability out of the ESSER fund.
I'm just wanting to know what the impact would be to our.
So if I took it out here and did it in the ESSER, this would actually save you $3 million on this operating budget.
Okay, that's what I was
Sorry,
alluding
yes,
to.
sir. That would work. Yes, ma'am? Oops.
Ms. Lieber, I think since last meeting, we've definitely made some strides because we began at, I want to say it was a 2% recommendation and also a 1% increase in the health insurance, or was it 1.5? I'm trying to recall. Was it
Well,
1 or 1.5?
it was a 1.5% increase on the healthcare premiums, and I'll show you a slide on that in just a moment.
And a 2% in the, for recommended raise, salary increase. So I believe we're definitely making strides and getting closer to where we need to be. I think we can do more, and we need to do more this particular year, especially with, I know it's a little bit confusing as far as ESSER funds and our operating budget, but I definitely think we need to do more for our employees, and if that means a 3% raise, we do 3% raise. Do we have the funds to do a 3% raise? One, and how much are we able to spend on the retention, what do we call it?
So retention credit, they did not specify an amount. They've talked to us about reasonability. There are key terms, so it needs to be reasonable and necessary. You need to be able to justify why you're doing it. Retention credit is an eligible purpose. How much, they are not specifying. So that's a different discussion. I will tell you that what I'm proposing here, you have to be able to live with in year 4 after ESSER. So what you're building into the salary schedule today is likely going to continue in perpetuity, and that's why I would caution you, do this in your operating, add this to your schedule, look at ESSER if you want to draw additional funds to give relief for COVID and to demonstrate retention and appreciation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we did a 3%, would we be able to
So
continue this?
when you say 3%, are you talking about 3% on your schedule, or are you just talking about the equivalent of 3% regardless of what fund?
Instead of the 2.5%.
Okay. Then you're talking about making this roughly 9 million plus 3, so 12.5 million, somewhere in there would be the impact to your operating budget. And you have the offsetting $9 million loss.
Mr. Rosales?
Or putting it another way, if we went and not looked at the 3 million here, and then we picked up the other funds, then we'd actually go back to 7.4 million. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And still work with the funds that we have. What do you call those? ESSER?
ESSER, ESSER 3.
And it would not have an impact on our budget.
That's right. At the
into
end of
perpetuity.
3 years, that money ceases to exist. It has to be completely spent by September 30th of 2023. And I think that goes to your point, Mr. Ochoa. You mentioned that YISD, I think, did 2 $1,000 credits, but they put 1% on their salary schedule.
Yeah.
So you can see that they're being conservative in what goes on the schedule. Yes, sir.
I like that. I guess the downside, if there is a downside, into the future, when we don't have those funds available, it's a bummer to go back and say, you know what, that piece of pie ain't coming to you this year, unfortunately. So it's a major consideration, but I think well, anyway, we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, I think it's something we have to convey to the teachers that these funds are limited. It's not going to be like that for years to come. It's just that it's available now, and we can utilize it as the board sees fit. But in the coming years, like Mr. Rosales said, that pie, like you mentioned, might not be there. And we need to stress that to our teachers and our staff and everybody that it's available now. It's just like hitting the lottery for a little while, and then you don't hit the lottery year in and year out, so then you've run out of funds. So we have to be realistic about what's the future as far as that. And those are stipends. That's not salary increases. So stipends can always be adjusted according to what the budget is in the future. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. And we serve at the pleasure of the board, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything?
One more thing, Lindley.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm kind of stuck on the 3%. If we were to increase it to 3%, right, as kind of discussed, was brought up by Ms. Valencia, if we were to increase it to 3%, keep the 500 as you have it in here, and then adopt the resolution as you discussed, because the 500 is something that we continually have put in our budget, right? And then adopt the resolution that with whatever it is that the body decides would be the retention fund. Can our district this particular year, can we afford that? Can we do that?
So I will tell you the way it will happen. If you ask me to put it on the salary schedule, we can pay whatever you ask us to pay, but we can't pay as many people what you ask us to pay. And so we will manage vacancies. We will actively look at, we've lost an employee there, can we absorb the functions? Now, obviously, teacher-student ratios can't change, but if students decline, then we will be looking at where can we consolidate, where can we tighten our belts.
I mean, we already do that. We already, that's been a practice of the district, and that's also what makes us, I'm grateful to the management, I'm grateful to your work as a CFO, because you brought us here to where we are today to be able to do as much as we can for the employees, and your work is much appreciated, but I think some of the practice we have in place have given us that ability to be able to remain competitive.
I think you can do 3%. I think you have to be careful at year 4. Okay? All right. Yes? All right. So you mentioned health insurance. Let me just briefly summarize the slide. When we talk about a 3% increase or a 2.5% increase, the budget today is built with 2.5%, right? That generates $168 more per month to the average teacher, nurse, or librarian. So your average full-time employee is going to get $168 more per month. A 1.5% increase is not taking half of or more of that away when you talk about health. On the health side, for the average employee, they're going to pay $1.88 or 42 cents more per month compared to the $168 they're going to get. So you're talking about the $168 might be $166 when we do the health care premium increase, based on what we're recommending. Obviously, we serve at the pleasure of the board, and we're going to do what you ask us to do, but I did build it in, and I do recommend that you modestly increase health premiums every year to protect your fund balance, because heaven knows what would happen if we had another pandemic. And you have to be prepared and have the fund balance necessary to deal with those kind of claims. So,
Mr. President, can I ask so I hear what you're saying, and I think that, I know that what you're saying is true and right. I'm not saying that. But perception in the district is always difficult when you give a raise, but then you raise the health insurance. There's always a pretty big perception that they're losing so much of what what they were getting as a raise, and it kind of cancels itself out. So what is your proposal to mitigate that, or at least, it does sound like quite a small amount to be raising. What is the chances that we wouldn't have to do that at all?
If we don't do that, then what will happen is on the district side, we'll increase the district's contribution just like we did from 2014 to 2020. The district will absorb more to try to mitigate the loss to the health fund. In my humble opinion, it's a communication. We just need to make sure that they understand we're given $168 a month and taking $1 to $2 a month.
Mr. President, I had a question to piggyback off your COVID comment. Since we're talking about health insurance, is there a way Mr. Long could get us prices for an insurance policy that has out-of-network coverage? And if so, when would we see something like that, and would we need that budgeted in now, or?
So, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I understand your question. Are you asking me if we have a plan that has out-of-network coverage?
So when he presented last meeting, I asked him if
Last
we did, and the answer was no. So if there is, say, another pandemic or whatever, and a teacher finds himself or herself in need of medical attention, but there is no in-network doctors, they're paying 100% of that cost because there is no out-of-network coverage.
So actually, there is out-of-network coverage. They call it Tier 2. Tier 1 is their agreement in their accountable care organization with the Providence, the tenant network. So in that one, and I'll use myself as an example because I recently had one of those claims. If you're in network, your deductible, if you're an employee only, is $3,000. If you're out of network, so I was in Tahoe on Martin Luther King holiday and cracked my head, so I had to go out of network. And my deductible was $7,000 because I was out of network. Now, you still get all of the reasonable price adjustments, right? They still evaluate the entire claim for, is it reasonable? Does it fit within the pricing scheme for an out-of-network physician in anywhere else in the state? And then they evaluate it, and so you still pay out-of-network prices, but the reasonable rate for them. So there is out-of-network coverage in the existing plan today.
I didn't see it, and then when I had asked him, he
Well,
said
so
that
this doesn't talk about the network. The network, Tier 1 is Providence or tenant. Tier 2 is anybody else, anywhere else, right? And then even, that's all there really is. There's Tier 1 or Tier 2. So you have those choices. This is basically just describing which plan do you want? Do you want the gold plan that's a PPO that you can go and you're going to pay 80%, 20%, and it's, all your family and employees? That's what the number one plan is in every category. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions on health? Or did I get everything you were asking me? Yeah?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Then let me go on to the budget calendar. So obviously, we're just talking about the budget tonight. We want to get your feedback, and we appreciate what you've told us. We will obviously go back and talk to each other and work with Dr. De La Torre to understand exactly where we're headed with this. June 9th, we would ask you to consider the final budget for adoption. We must legally adopt by June 30th. Then in August, we always come back with the certified appraisal roll and the tax rate to ask you to approve those at that time. And that's actually the end of the presentation. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindy.
Yes, sir.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes,
In
sir.
terms of the tax rolls and what we may be looking, and I'm asking it as a question to the board, would the presentation by the central appraisal people be appropriate anytime between now and then? They're going through some very, very, shall I say, unstable environment with COVID, and not only that, the unemployment, what have you. I'm asking a question. If you guys, I would, as a board member, would like to see what the temperature is by the central appraisal at this point.
I think at this time, May 18th is the closing window for protest, and I don't know what the process is after that, as far as the protest to valuations of the home, which does have an impact on our tax rules.
So what will happen July 25th are when they issue their final certified values. Obviously, protests go on all year long, and they're negotiating those, and they're having their hearings. We typically discount what they tell us the collections are going to be conservative, because we don't know what is going to happen with those protest hearings. If you would like to hear from the appraisal from CAD, what we can do is, we still have to adopt this budget. We don't adopt the tax rate and the property tax values until August. So we could have them come in June or July and give you an overall presentation, and then you would maybe have more information when you get to August to adopt tax roll and tax rate.
Yeah, I think June, if that's appropriate.
Well, I throw that to the board because from my perspective, the more informed you are, the better the decisions that you make will be. And since this is going to have an impact, we're not out of the woods yet by any means economically. You know, we may be over the pandemic or close to it towards the end, but we've got to prepare ourselves to see what the impact is going to be like. But ultimately, the main thing here, from my perspective, is how is it going to impact our children? That's the bottom line. Because we can throw all kinds of money, something again happens, and then we're out there in limbo land, so to speak. And I'd rather be prepared, I'd rather be cautious than think things are going to work out really well. Reality, it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
So that's my opinion. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Mr. Ramirez.
I'm sorry, last date of protest is May 15th.
May 18th.
15th?
15th. I hear I was going to send mine in. Yeah, it has been quite a shock to see the valuation of how much it has jumped over this. But then I go to Home Depot and I buy a 2x4, and it is ridiculous. It is just ridiculous. And it's just the economy we're in right now. You know, COVID, and we're coming out, and people are starting to build homes and everything, and housing market is going crazy, and so all those resources are limited. So I can see why, you know, the value of homes has skyrocketed, but some of it has to be looked at a little closer. Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Deep. Oh, there she is. Thank you.
The last presentation is Ms. Champagne. If anyone has any questions, comments relative to her work.
Good evening, President Ochoa, Superintendent, all the board members.
Can you just briefly describe what you've been accomplishing here in the last, since the last time we saw you, or before?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We did a unannounced middle school cash audit. As I presented in last week's report, overall not bad, and one of the schools were doing further investigation to finalize what the deviation were. And then we, at the same time, were preparing to do a few department leadership change and school leadership change audit.
Okay. Does that follow your priority plans?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to make sure you're still on track.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, sir? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. De La Torre, is that in our presentations? I think it is.
Yes, President Ochoa, that concludes presentations. Maybe now would be a good time for about a 5-minute break.
I think I was going to suggest that. So let's take a 5-minute break. It's 7:53, and we'll return at 8:02. No. My math is bad. 7:58. Thank you all. We will proceed now with our board meeting. At this time, we would like to discuss the agenda items as listed in the posted notice of regular meeting of Ysleta ISD Board of Trustees for May 12, 2021, and related recommended motions with the superintendent and executive cabinet, and receive responses to questions and/or requests for additional information through the superintendent in preparation for deliberation and action items as said items at the May 12, 2021 regular Board of Trustees meeting. Consent items. The order of the agenda has been approved. No, I got to read the consent. All right, consent items. Number 1, minutes of the Board of Trustees workshop and regular board meeting, March 10th, 2021, 6 p.m. Number 2, Board of Trustees workshop and regular board meeting, April 14th, 2021, 6 p.m. Monthly financial update as of March 2021. Number 4 is resolution to amend and authorize representatives with text pool. Number 5, 2021-22 instructional materials allotment and TEACS certification form. Number 6, approval of award YISD contract number 202-10129 with Region 17 ESC. Approval. Number 7, approval of award of YISD contract number 202-10144 with Communities in School of El Paso, Inc.
Mr. Ochoa?
Yes, yes.
I had a question. Communities and schools with the pandemic, how's that been working out? I mean, are they still performing their required or contractual requirements?
Yes, sir, they're still showing up, and they're there, they're housed. Now that we're back in person, when they were virtual, they were providing the virtual pieces, and they've been providing their services.
Thank you.
At any time, if you have any questions, just catch my attention or just go ahead and speak up. Number 8, shared services arrangement agreement for the El Paso Regional Day School Program for the Deaf. Okay. I'll go ahead and outline the action items. It's solicitation number BP 1901-A, life cycle work at Del Valle High School, Loma Terrace ES is elementary school, and Sageland Elementary School. Number 2, solicitation of number BP 1901-B, life cycle work at East Point Elementary School, Eastwood Heights Elementary School, and Edgemere Elementary School, and Presa Elementary School. Number 3, award of Phase 4 solicitation Bond 2019 RFP-03 BP 1906, New Elementary Schools. Number 4, delegation regarding possible contract for stadium lights.
Mr. President, I had a quick question. Just when was the last time these lights were replaced, and what's different about these?
These lights have actually never been replaced. They are original to the construction of the high schools. The thing that we are able to do every year, and we always have to subcontract it out, is replace bulbs. And I did send a BC. I'm not going to even presume to be able to describe the type of metal bulb that these are. They're not fluorescent, but they're very old technology. And the infrastructure that's with them, the poles are in decent shape, but the electrical that's inside those poles, the connectivity for remote control of them is all ancient. There are transformers at the high schools that need to be replaced. And we had looked at doing this internally, trying to subcontract it out. We estimated it was going to be between $300,000 and $500,000 per stadium. So to be able to jock this out and get LED lights, brand new fixtures, brand new bulbs at every stadium, along with electrical for $3 million or less, we considered that a great deal. And it's our intention to try to have it done before fall football starts.
I just wanted to express my concern about this. I'm a little disappointed with these replacements. That's a secret to our success at Ysleta High School, being so dark on the field that you couldn't see who had the ball.
You had me panicked. I'm thinking, oh, no.
So,
That's gonna
yeah, we
take
don't have any
advantage of
advantage on that, you know, so, seriously, though,
Okay.
it really, our field really is dark. I'm thrilled, okay? My only comment was Ysleta, as you well know, because you were there, when they did the new field, which we were thrilled with, when we did the new field, they actually pulled back a little bit, and so some of that, what do they call them, the towers or the light standards, whatever they are, they're not in the right place. And I was just kind of curious. I know you're going to replace the light bulbs or the LEDs to 2 LEDs, but was there going to be any type of engineering or any consideration to, hey, this pole's like 60 feet too far that way type thing?
So they have already looked at, we considered doing this as an energy performance agreement. We have ruled it out because of the time and the cost.
And the
Quite
cost,
frankly,
right.
it costs more to do an energy performance contract than it does to just replace the poles and structures. Because we considered that, they have already been to every stadium and looked at every stadium and considered the foot candles and how bright it will be, and they are coming back to do it one more time. So I will specifically ask about Ysleta, but what we're seeing in their original proposals is with the new fixture and the new bulb, we won't need that kind of movement of poles. But I will definitely raise Ysleta's to them.
And I think in all fairness, though, because we speak for the entire district, you know, I talk about Ysleta High School, but I mean, you know, the footprint for all the high schools, I think that's, you know, a serious consideration, because this is not something we do very often.
No, sir, it's not. I mean, given that they are the original constructed poles and stadium lights that were built when the schools were built, it's a huge undertaking. So
Okay.
I will definitely ask them.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I do have a question. Have we considered the energy savings in the long run, what these lights will provide to us?
So we spend about $30,000 to replace 12 to 16 bulbs a year, just the bulb. These LED bulbs have a 10-year guarantee at their cost to come and replace. And obviously, LED lighting is much more efficient than halide, I think is what they're called.
And that's what I was alluding to, the electric, how much energy will these take? Less power, I'm sure, because LEDs are very bright, but they'll take a small percentage of power that these regular lights right here would take. So have they calculated that for you?
So I have not run the calculations for multiple years because I'm not going to rely on the savings to pay for it. We do know.
No, I'm not looking at the same. I'm just saying that we can leave our lights on much as a safety factor also for our facilities, as well as provide. I know that we have soccer and we have, you know, band practice and stuff. They could probably utilize it without really incurring a lot of cost on the energy saving to our district, which I think would be a benefit to everyone using those stadium lights, especially at night. Right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I've got a question or a comment. Thank God. I've been asking for lighting for the last 6 years, and we're going to get it, I hope. But my point is we've done the same thing for the baseball fields. Is this strictly football and soccer?
Yes, sir, for now.
Okay. That'll be our next
Little
project.
bites at a time.
No, well, we just installed those new baseball field and softball field lights. They're only a couple of years
Are they
old.
LED?
Yes.
Okay, never mind. End of discussion. Thank God we're getting them.
Our next chunk would be parking lights, and we're not there yet.
Will be what?
Parking.
Oh, yes, we need to have safety there as well. Yeah. Okay, thank you. That is good news, and I think we have to vote on it tonight, so hopefully we'll all support that. That concludes the review of our agenda items, and now we would, let's see. The order of the agenda has been approved. Are there any, well, no. Okay. Where am I? Yeah. Oh, yeah. The order of the agenda has been approved. Are there any items you would like to pull for a separate vote? May I have an electronic motion and a second on the agenda items?
Mr. President,
Ms. Woodruff?
I move to approve the consent agenda items listed on this agenda as recommended by administration.
We have a second by Mr. Mike Rosales. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast, and the results are 7 in favor and none opposed. Okay, now we'll take a vote on the action items. Action item number 1, solicitation BP 1901-A, life cycle work at Del Valle High School, Loma Terrace Elementary School, and Sageland Elementary School. Using your electronic hand, is there any discussion? If no further discussion, may I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Woodruff?
I move to approve award of YISD solicitation number BP 1901-A to AO General Contractor, Inc., as shown on solicitation documents for life cycle work at Del Valle High School, Loma Terrace Elementary, Sageland Elementary, for a not to exceed the amount of $15,475,152 from various funds contingent upon final negotiations, in-house council review, and for Form 1295 certificate of interested parties.
I have a second by Mr. Mike Rosales. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. Results are 7 in favor, none opposed. Action item number 2, solicitation BP 1901-B, life cycle work at East Point Elementary School, Eastwood Height Elementary School, Edgemere Elementary School, and Presa Elementary School. Using your electronic hand, is there any discussion? If no further discussion, may I have a motion? I have Mr. Mike Rosales.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the award of YISD solicitation BP 10901-B to EMJ Corporation for life cycle work at East Point Elementary School, Eastwood Heights Elementary School, Edgemere Elementary School, Presa Elementary School, for not to exceed in the amount of $17,740,935 from various funds contingent upon final negotiations, in-house council review, and Form 1295 certificate of interested parties.
Thank you. We have a second by Ms. Woodruff. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. Results are 7 in favor, none opposed. Action item number 3, award of Phase 4 solicitation bond 2019 RFP-03 BP 1906, new elementary schools. Using your electronic hand, is there any discussion? If no further discussion, may I have a motion? Mr. Haggerty.
I move to approve award of Phase 4 solicitation bond 2019 RFP-03 BP 1901 new elementary schools for the mighty Dolphin Terrace, Riverside, and Scottsdale to Baines General Contractors for bond funds for $19,964,877 towards the guaranteed maximum price contingent upon final negotiations, in-house council review, and Form 1295 certificate of interested parties.
Thank you, Mr. Haggerty. I have a second by Mr. Rosales. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. Results are 7 in favor, none opposed. Action item number 4, delegation regarding possible contract for stadium lights. May I have a motion? Is there any discussion? No further discussion? May I have a motion? Mr. Rosales.
I move to approve delegation of authority to superintendent to award a contract using the interlock purchasing cooperative solicitation for a job order contract to provide and install new field lighting to include infrastructure and electrical improvements as necessary for all district high school stadiums in the amount of not to exceed $3 million contingent upon final negotiations, legal review, and Form 1295 certificate of interested parties.
We have a second by Mr. Ramirez. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. Results are 7 in favor, none opposed. Okay, Ms. Lily, we better win out there, okay? When we have those lights up.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, at this time, the Board of Trustees has determined that a closed meeting of the Board of Trustees is required to discuss the items set forth in the posted agenda for this date. Such closed meeting is authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.001, including but not limited to the sections and purposes covered by the following section of the Texas Government Code, 551.071, 72, 73, 74, 76, 82, 127, 821, 83, and 84. Should any final action, decision, or vote be required with regard to any matter considered in closed session, the final action, decision, or vote shall be in the open meeting or subsequent public meeting with notice. Trustee Carlos Bustillos has recused and will excuse himself from closed session during the discussion of item number 2 as listed on the posted agenda. The board will now go into closed session in the mission room at 7:21 p.m. I ask that if you are not part of this board or an attorney for the board, please quietly make your way to the foyer. You are excused from this portion of the meeting. Thank you. I reconvene this meeting of the Board of Trustees with Charlie Bustillo, Sotero Ramirez, Shane Haggerty, Mike Rosales, Connie Woodruff, Catherine Lucero, and myself, Cruz Ochoa, at 9:42 p.m. Whoa, okay. Action items after closed session. Number 1, consider and take possible action to approve the proposed non-renewal of term employment contract of a CNT T-STEM teacher at Parkland High School. May I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve the recommendation of administration to propose the non-renewal of the term contract of a CTE T-STEM teacher at Parkland High School.
I have a second by Ms. Lucero. All votes have been cast. The results are 7 approved, none opposed. Number 2, consider and take possible action regarding options for resolution of litigation in Lopez versus YISD cause number 202 DCV 3369. May I have a motion? Mr. Rosales.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize administration to engage in mediation and possible settlement in the matter of Lopez versus YISD cause number 2020 DCV 3369 as discussed in closed session.
Thank you. We have a second by Ms. Woodruff. Please cast your electronic votes. All votes have been cast. We have 6 in favor, 1 opposed. Number 3, extension of superintendent's employment contract. May I have a motion? Ms. Woodruff.
Mr. President, I move to approve the 8th Amendment to Superintendent's contract providing for 1-year extension to June 30th, 2026.
Hold on, we haven't voted yet. We have a second by Mr. Rosales. All votes have been cast. The results are 7 in favor, none opposed. Now you can do it.
You guys almost blew it for me.
Anybody want to say anything at this time?
Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to say that, and I believe Mr. Haggerty can attest to this, when Dr. Delatorre was first called to come to Ysleta, we were 2 of the dissenters, and he took a gamble on us. He went ahead and said, okay, I'll try it with a 4-3, and that's incredibly unusual. I mean, most superintendents won't even give you a chance. All I can say is that was the beginning of a really, really good relationship, lots of great work, and I'm just so glad that I lost that vote. And I just want to say thank you to Dr. Delatorre and to the cabinet. Of course, extend that on down to all of our schools and our teachers, because we all benefit from his great leadership. And so I just want to say thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to piggyback on what Ms. Woodruff said, and I think that is the only vote that I've ever been happy to have lost. When you say that everyone's grown under his leadership, I can speak from personal experience that I've grown as a trustee, as a person, as a member of this community because of your leadership, because of learning from you, the way you handled the COVID pandemic, the way you kept us on the straight and narrow, and the applause that you got tonight, just when, even before we took the vote, I think that's all a testament to the work that you've been doing and the leadership that you've chosen to back you up, because without these leaders, there's no way that you would look as good as you do, and we would look as good as we do. And I think it all stems from the fantastic job that you and all your your staff is doing, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say something?
Yeah. I want to sentiment the words of my colleagues here. Thank you so much, Dr. De La Torre, for everything that you've done. I know that it's been tough. I know it has. I don't know what it was back then when Shane and Miss Woodruff was, but it was tough on our end. But I know that our kids are better for it. Our school district is better for it. Our leadership on this end is, thank you so much for everything that you do. I know all the hard work. My wife's a teacher, so I know everything that it starts here, our leadership here, and it rolls down. And I thank you guys for everything that you all do. I appreciate it. So thank you so much, Dr. De La Torre, for everything that you do for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you, Dr. La Torre, for everything you do for our entire district. For the folks that were already cheering out there, he doesn't take credit for his work. He takes credit, he takes credit for you guys. He says that his cabinet and the principals and the leadership, and then he talks about the leadership in the four corners of the classroom. And so I think that speaks a whole lot about the type of a person he is. And by the way, we've all grown up a lot in the last 6-7 years, as not only as Shane said, as trustees, but also as individuals. I think the other thing too is that I'd like to say this to the community: he is worth it. Okay, he is worth it, and he's being very humble right now, but he's definitely worth it. And so for anybody that has any second guesses, any thoughts or issues about the relationship of this board with their superintendent, please know that you shouldn't question that. Okay, we're here for the long run. We're here for the duration. We're here for our students' success and the success of our employees. So thank you very much for everything you do, sir.
Very much.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, Dr. La Torre, and I have to write stuff down because I'm not as eloquent just straight out like that, but I just want to let you know that Dr. La Torre has been the constant at YISD. You've demonstrated commitment, loyalty, and excellence. You understand our community, and your drive doesn't come from personal gain. What drives you comes from service. You care about our employees and our students, and you demonstrate what true leadership means. And I thank you for that. And thank you to our leadership team and everybody at our district. It does come from the top, and I am honored that you lead us. So thank you.
Thank you all very much. That's about enough. I took a risk, and then I gave you a risk back. No, I am very, very appreciative and honored that you would extend me an additional year. The reality is I've come to a place in my career where I just can't imagine working with anyone else. If you've worked with them and our colleagues in the back, the idea of ever having to start over, get to know another community, get to know another school board, develop the relationships, the loyalties, spend the time, it just is so unappealing to me right now that I'm blessed to be here and hope to be here until I retire sometime around age 65, about 8 years. And that should allow me and this phenomenal group of people the time we need to finish a second strategic action plan, and I've come to love them and see them as family, and I've come to appreciate your leadership, and there have been often times when you've had to put yourself out there for me, and I'll never forget that.
Thank you. Mr. Rosales, did you have something?
I was going to say, you all said it. No, but I constantly preach the same thing, the leadership. Not only that, you seldom find a leader that knows how to pick leaders. And believe me, I'm the oldest guy now. I used to be the youngest guy in the group, but now I'm the oldest. So I've been around a little bit, But believe me, when you have a leader that knows how to pick other leaders, you've got a winning situation. And I thank you, administration. I thank all our people that work, the principals, assistant principals, all the way down to the guys that are getting up at 5 in the morning or at 4 in the morning, go drive those buses. I have a true appreciation. And the thing is, he does too. He knows what it's like. And so we have a winning situation. We're going to be confronted with a lot of other issues that will happen when they happen. But the sign of leadership is not how good you do. It's confront the issues and make the best decisions you can. And with your quality of people out there, not all of you are there because most of you are at home. I know that on TV. But the fact is that we can undertake and overcome any obstacle, in my opinion, in this school district. We've proven it. I mentioned this earlier, we're not a bunch of clowns. We're here to do a job, and we do it seriously. Yes, we may laugh and we may have jokes and what have you, but when it comes down to doing it, you're the doers. And I certainly appreciate you all, and I appreciate you, Dr. La Torre. And he didn't pay me for this one, okay? Thank you. No, great. It's great working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosales. I only have a few words to say, thank God, but 7 minutes. Okay, we turn into a pumpkin or what? But I want to say something that I thought about when I first started 4 years ago when I came on board. And I didn't know Dr. De La Torre, and I didn't know anybody here really on board. I mean, maybe Charlie and I had campaigned a little bit together, but we really didn't know each other. And when we first had our meeting with our staff and yourselves, and I want to remind you because I did say it, I said, I'm here, but I don't trust anybody.
You did say that.
I did. But I said it for a reason. I wanted to let you know that over time, trust is not given, it's earned, you know. And certainly over this last 4 years, we've gone through a lot together. And Dr. De La Torre and all of us have gone through a rough time, as with you. And we've all come together as a family where we can trust each other and make sure that we are doing the right thing for our community. And I'm very happy at this point in time to say that Dr. De La Torre has proven, has earned my trust, as well as you all. And I think that's what makes this board function even smoother. We trust each other here, up here too, and the respect is there. But all my board members here said tonight is true for all of us. I think we appreciate everything that we have done, and we look forward to what more we can do to make YISD the best district in our community. So thank you all, and thank you for, I have 5 minutes, so it gets to. So I thank you all, and I think it's been a long night, but it's been a very rewarding night. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, wow, okay. Adjourn.